Okay, so we've learned so many construction techniques. Remember, we started off with just making hand-built things and really developing that relationship with the clay and learning that we could make things smooth and symmetrical and nice. We learned that we could expand that and make things a little bit more ornate, a little bit more intricate. From there, we learned a little bit about combining those things and how we could use that and make even larger projects. From there, we learned a little bit about slab construction. Once again, starting off really simple and basic, and moving on to making something that was a little bit more ornate. Here we learned a little bit about relief carving. In opposed to additive sculpture, we use subtractive sculpture. Alrighty. After that, we learned a little something about using coils and how we were able to make things that were much larger and very symmetrical using a key to create the symmetry. With this one, you also had an option of taking it even further and combining the knowledge of relief carving with the coil construction. And so I gave you an optional project. That was this one here. So now we're going to learn composite construction. So something a little bit like this here. And in doing so, I'll also give you an optional project too, but I'll show you that in a few minutes. For our purposes for this video, we're going to keep it really simple. Okay, put these things aside. Like with our other projects, it's probably not a bad idea to start with a drawing. So as I think about how I'm going to make this composite, I think I'm going to keep this one really simple, like I was saying. Starting with just a base, and then just adding some swirling coils to it. Maybe this way, maybe this way, and this way. Whether or not I add a little something at the bottom, maybe, but actually I think I like this to be smooth at the bottom. And that's one of the reasons why drawing something out first is such a good idea. Okay, so how would I go about making something like this? Well, first off, I could use a key with this project, but for this one it's so simple I don't think I will. I've got a little piece of clay right here, and like so many times, I'm just going to start off doing that hand construction. Remember, just like we did when we very started. Okay, so now that I've got my basic bowl shape, I'm just going to put this aside for a few minutes, and I'm going to grab a little bit more clay. Okay, so for this design, I've got these swirls. I'm just going to make these with coils, pretty much the same way that I did when I was making my coil vase, but this time, instead of using the machine to extrude them, I'm just going to hand roll the coils. So I start off just by making a cylinder, as I oftentimes do. Start going down here, making sure I get a full rotation. Find that that's probably at least twice as much as what I want. So I'll tear that in half. Bring the ends together so that it's a little bit more pointy at the ends. That's why I don't get tubes. And start rolling it out again. Okay, so the coils that I've made are much thinner than the ones that I was making for my coil vase when I was using the machine. And I think what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to score both sides of it, just like so, just like this. There's the one side, there's the other side, because whenever we attach, we want to score. Really no exception. Okay, this clay is wet enough to where I don't need to add any water or anything like that to it. And I'm just going to start rolling it up. So maybe a little bit this way, just like my picture showed. It's about halfway. And maybe a little bit this way right here. And in this way, I've got a nice little swirl. Okay, but where does the composite thing come together? Well, let's do one more and then I'll show you. Okay, so now I've got a couple of pieces like this. What I'm going to do is I've got the pretty side here that's been up, and I'll just take and cradle that in my hand, nice and careful. And I'm going to score across here. And then I'm going to smooth this off. In doing this, I've really made this into one solid piece. All right, I'm going to put this aside and do the same thing to this other one. Okay, so we call this composite construction because we're going to composite these pieces together. I went ahead and made two more, so I've got 4 of these all together. And I've also made some little balls like this. This is going to go in between the pieces like this and make things fit a little bit tighter, a little bit better. Okay, well, it's very simple. All I'm going to do is score just like so. And then I'll go ahead and score my piece here too. Just the one side, because I'm going to leave the other side just as the top, just like that. I'll put that on, maybe fitting one little ball right in there. Just like so. I'll use that little ball as extra material, score across these things, of course, and then I'll be able to smooth that out. I'll do that in a moment, because I'll go ahead and just do the rest of these guys. A little bit right here, get that jammed in there, score it where one meets the other, score this right here, another little guy right in here. Might as well score that as well, right? That's what I was saying, you should always score. Fit that piece together. Okay, so I've got all these guys attached. So now I'm just going to go ahead and smooth this off in here. Remember, you always want to use as little water as you can. If you need to use water, go ahead and use it. It's a tool. But if not, water just makes things weak. Well, that's pretty much it. I've smoothed the inside a little bit. And as you can see from the outside, it's kind of cool, right? And I think that I would continue to work with this a little bit more, especially after it firmed up a little bit, because it's kind of wet right now, so I can't do too much with it. But, give it a day or so, come back to class the next day. It'll be a little bit firmer. You'll be able to do all the finishing touches. Now, like I was saying, that could be it. But these composite things can grow quite elaborate. So for instance, if I wanted to make this more elaborate, I could just keep adding layers to it, one on top of another, like so, right? Putting more things in between, whatever, right? I could also use a key to keep it straight as I do that. I'd mentioned that we could take this a little bit further. So, for those of you guys who'd like an optional project, let me show you a little something. I'll have videos explaining exactly how I went making these things, but here is one that's very much like the one that we were just building. It's just been taken a little bit further, right? But you don't have to use just coils. Here, for instance, I made a bunch of roses and put them together to make a vase. And I showed you this one at first. This one's one that I made a few years ago, just kind of screwing around. But I took this idea and I've taken it a little bit further with this one right here. Here I've made it asymmetrical, so it's not the same all the way around. I just thought that was kind of cooler looking. And on this one, I had actually used a key. To keep things all even and symmetrical as I was building it. Anyways, there are tutorials on all of these ones here that I just showed you. So, if you'd like, just start off by making a nice simple one. Make it nice, make it good. And then, if you're feeling it, go ahead and elaborate on it a little bit.